Good afternoon, Asia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for participating in this, the Latino Caucus Writing and Working for Change project. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'm happy to participate.
Good. I was wondering if you could just start with a little bit of background about yourself first, and then we'll get right into our questions.
Yeah, sure. I'm originally from Arizona and went to the University of Arizona. That's where I got my degree in rhetoric and composition. And had my first job after the PhD at Binghamton University. It's one of the SUNYs in upstate New York, and I've just recently been hired at Syracuse University, so I'll be starting in the newly titled Department of Writing Studies, Rhetoric, and Composition at Syracuse. And we have the graduate program in Composition and Cultural Rhetoric, so I'm excited to get started.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. When and why did you choose to attend the C's or NCTE? So maybe we could establish that first. Do you go to both, or you're just
I have gone to both, primarily C's because of my teaching and research in the college and university spaces. But my first time at NCTE was to promote an edited collection I did with Rashawn Young. And the second time I went was because I was elected to the nominating committee. So I went to complete my service, but also to participate in the cultural celebration that the Black Caucus and the Latino Caucus put on there. But yeah, primarily C's.
So when, why did you get involved with the C's, and then a little bit, we already know about NCTE.
Yeah, so C's, I remember my first year of graduate school, which was my first year in rhetoric and composition as a field. I was coming as an undergraduate out of anthropology and was accepted from MA to PhD into this new, it wasn't new to me, this program at Arizona called Rhetoric, Composition, and the Teaching of English. And I remember during spring semester, everyone just kind of disappeared. It was like a ghost town during, I think, about a week in March or April. And I was just kind of looking around and realized classes were canceled. I didn't know what happened. And no one had really cued me in on the fact that C's was that week and everyone left. It was C's time. I didn't know what that was. And so that was the year, I think it was in New York City. And so when people came back, and this was just part of my, part of it was miseducation, part of it was just my lack of knowing how to navigate at that point, just not aware of these professional conferences and this kind of stuff that I was supposed to be participating in. So the following fall, I was encouraged to submit to C's, because by that point it was made clear to me this is what we do. You know, we are RCTE, we are participant in this conference big time, so everyone should be submitting to, and attending. And I did get accepted, and then I was also encouraged to apply for Scholars for the Dream, and so I did that as well, and also was awarded Scholars for the Dream, which made it then kind of, you know, a big possibility for me to attend that following spring in New Orleans. So I believe that was 2008 was my first year. And that was the year that I met some prominent people, some of the elders in the Latino Caucus. I don't know if they want to be called elders, but like Jaime Mejia in particular, and everybody that was associated with him through Texas State, San Marcos. And then because it was Scholars for the Dream that I was there for and was attending the receptions, I was able to meet people from the other caucuses that then became kind of my home and my community in the overall organization.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Mm.
That's wonderful. That's great. Why did you decide to join the caucus? Who was involved? And what did you sense was the importance of the caucus for others? Mm-hmm. And what were your goals?
That year was my second year in graduate school, and so I was already feeling a bit of displacement in my own program at Arizona. And when I got to C's that year, and I think in panels, but also in the first caucus meeting I attended, started hearing people voicing similar issues, whether that be at the graduate or the professor level. I started realizing, oh, okay, I'm not alone, and these are people who have been through this at various stages where I felt like I was beginning, right? And some people were, toward the end of their graduate careers or early career in their professorships or later career, like Victor Villanueva. So that was comforting. The other thing, though, that was really strange, I don't think it was strange, I think it was, just something that happens, is all the Scholars for the Dream fanfare that was happening surrounding me being given the award at the opening session, and then having the special designated sessions that people present at that are Scholars for the Dream, and then having the reception. None of my faculty from University of Arizona attended any of that. They pretty much ignored the whole thing, and I remember feeling really hurt, personally hurt, whether it was personal on their part, it felt personal to me. And like I mentioned, it was people like Jaime Mejia and Octavio Pimentel who attended my panel and took me kind of into their arms and said, hey, we're excited for you and congratulations, and come be with us and come sit with us, because they noticed that I was by myself at this reception. I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have any faculty there, to be excited for me. So they were that. And so then they were also the ones that after the reception, which usually happens on Thursday, said, hey, our meeting's on Friday, come do this thing that I would never have known about otherwise. So that was a big part of how I became involved, was just getting, drawn in by people who are already members.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful to be extended and be brought into the family immediately.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And what has been the role of the caucus in your career since then? So that's when you began as a graduate student, you were invited, and it sounds like you have continued to have the C's be your home.
Yeah. I think access to the organization has always been a big concern, because our leadership was transitioning at that time from Ceci Milianes to Christina Kirkleiter and Renee Moreno. And in that transfer, just from my kind of, at that point, I felt outsider observation as a new member, it was and has continued to be a point of conversation that we need representation on the program, in the awards, in the many different avenues that happen in both of the big conferences, this recognition and just access to these sorts of things through elected roles and leadership positions. So I think that's continued to be something that our leadership has worked on. What I've kind of in the same vein taken up as my work now as a more advanced person in the caucus, I guess, because I've been participant for a few years, is to tackle kind of the social media angle of representation and making sure that we have social media presence and that things are being announced about not just who our members are, but what we're doing, our accomplishments, our publications, our things that might be small to some people, like just passing an exam, is big to somebody who hasn't done that yet. So I've tried to be the person that continues the representation in that regard, but also something that is important to me because of the way I joined the caucus is outreach and making sure that at every C's, our chairs are made aware of who the new Latinos are that are attending C's, and making sure that before C's even happens, that they're sent an email saying, hey, we exist, come be with us on Friday and on these other events, that we're having. And I think that has been part of it too, because there's been so many more Latinos, like younger people than me, that are coming up that is creating a critical mass. And so the recruitment has been a big thing that I've seen the caucus concerned with, but I'm personally concerned with as well.
Yeah. Have you seen it grow?
A lot, yeah. I mean, all you have to look at is the picture every year. It gets bigger, the group picture that gets taken. Yeah, the first year I attended, it was in a pretty big ballroom, but a pretty small circle of, gente, which was great. And in the past few years, we've had slightly smaller rooms, but less space. Because of the growing number of people, our circle has gotten huge to the point where sometimes we can't do a circle because there are too many people. And this is kind of, I don't know, it's not a great story about a testament to that, but I think 2 years ago or 3 in Indianapolis, I went and requested, because that was the first year we had the tags for our badges that said Latino Caucus, because that was the year Adam Banks was in charge, and he was thinking about things like that. And that was the first year that we had that. Again, once again, representation, right? Like to show that we exist and we're walking around. And for other Latinos maybe who just would see that, you know, little badge ribbon, that's important. And I went to request a stack of them so I could go to the meeting next and distribute them to anybody who didn't have one. And the woman at the kind of registration counter for C's as a whole, when I asked her for, I think 40 that year, which was an underestimate actually, she said, "Oh, are there that many of you?" And so it was rude and it was pretty racist, but it was also a testament to, yes, there are, and there's more actually. We didn't have enough ribbons for everybody that year. So yeah, we're growing.
That was an eye-opener for her.
Yeah, I guess.
What are some of the issues that you witnessed or observed at C's, and even in how do you remember the caucus responding, and who were some of the leaders that took such an initiative?
Yeah, so one of the ones that's closest to my heart that happened right in the middle of my graduate school education was the ban on ethnic studies here in Arizona. Mostly it's close to my heart because it was one of the schools that was banned from teaching it, and the teachers were the high school that I attended here in Tucson. So what I noticed that year, that was Atlanta, when there was attention paid to that as an issue, as a national issue, is that there was space made for one of the educators, Curtis Acosta, to come and relate the issues about what was happening in Arizona legislatively to the entire caucus. And then our leadership, Christina Renee at that time, took that to the, you know, C's e-board, I believe, and even up to the NCTE level. And so since that kind of set the ball rolling for part of what happened this past year, which was our resolution and our statement on ethnic studies that we've then done in cooperation with some of the other caucuses. So I feel like that's something that I have seen the caucus take a leadership role in and take serious and take to the upper levels to make sure that our organization as a whole is speaking on a national level about something like ethnic studies.
I wanted to follow up on that idea that you had the little Latino caucus ribbon on your badge. Did that happen? I don't know what year that happened, and has it happened since then? I know it's a small thing, but I think it's a big idea.
Yeah, it seems small, but it is, like you said, it's huge in terms of representation and just existence, really, right? We exist, we're part of this in an important way, as important as any other organization that gets that kind of recognition. The first year was the first year that Adam Banks was involved in the leadership of running C's when he was assistant chair. And that was Indianapolis, so I believe that was 2013. Back check me on that one, but that was the first moment that I saw that was available to us. And then the year after that, it was a given. We got our ribbons, and then this year in Houston, they ran out, and they ran out on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning. So
that's bad.
Yeah, that was really bad because, you know, the conference had just started like Thursday that morning. So people, you know, brought the issue up, and I brought the issue up at a panel with some senior members, with past chairs included, like Keith Gilliard. And the answer actually from Keith Gilliard was that, well, you have to bring this up to chairs. You have to, you know, go to them and tell them that this is something that's important to you. And I think the answer is fine. That's good, you know, to know those navigation strategies. We do need to know those, because I personally didn't know what I can and can't say to a chair of the entire conference. But I think also what the difference has been is that a chair like Adam Banks versus a chair like who these past chairs have been is one who thinks about that sort of thing, right? He understands the importance of that kind of representation and honors that and makes sure to think about it before we even have to complain or say something or even ask for it, because we didn't know we could have something like that until it became something. And now that we expect it, I think it has to be something that we insist on instead of just something that, you know, the chairs now, that Adam has set as precedence, I guess is what I can say. It's just kind of like, oh, well, he did that, and it's just out of sight, out of mind now, maybe, for the new chairs, but it is something that seems small, but at the end of the day is big in terms of representation.
Oh yeah, it shows who we are and that we're active in the organization. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And plus recruitment. I think
Absolutely, exactly. So to run out on the first day that morning, it's just like, wait a minute. What that made me think is that none had been ordered, and we were using the ones that had been used from the past conference that was surplus, you know? So.
What are some of your earliest memories of the caucus, interacting with others, and what kind of discussions, resolutions, and projects transpired?
So again, some of my earliest memories was the transfer of leadership from Ceci to Renee and Christina. And that was cool to me to see it was women being leaders of the caucus. That made me feel like, okay, this is a good organization that I'm joining. But I remember just always hearing about things like Rainbow Strand. That was always a big concern with Christina and Renee's, because they would go to NCTE as well as C's. And so coming in the years to know what that meant and how that has developed has been an interesting story to me. I remember just also too meeting some of the people who have become mentors to me, like Jaime Mejia and Victor Villanueva in particular, who have both been just instrumental in terms of my publishing career, and then just the way I've been able to apply for jobs and the kind of advice they've given. So those are kind of my earliest memories, is just having a space that has become now for me, especially for the years that I feel less or enthusiastic about participating in C's for different political reasons and different things that come up. That gives me something to come back to, because I feel like that's almost like family reunion time to come, and like academic family reunion time to come and see everybody and catch up and make sure that the new members are being taken care of. And that, if anything, that's what draws me back, is to know that, okay, there's probably new members who are probably feeling the way I did when I got to C's for the first time, and could really use someone like myself and others to bring them into the fold and be there for them.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What positive or negative actions have you seen between the 4Cs and NCTE in being inclusive of Latino scholars and educators?
Yeah, I mean, there's several things. I think what it roots to is how inclusive their publications are of our work, beyond just special issues, which is something that comes up every single year, because the representation of our work in the publications is part of what I think drives the stage one reviewers in particular in what they are thinking is important in our field at that moment, right? And so if they're not seeing our work represented in the major publications of the organization, then they may be putting on the back burner some of this scholarship that is going to just germinate really at the conference, which is what happens a lot of times, right? Like the spark gets lit at the conference and then turns into maybe publications and scholarships. So that's one thing. And I think as a chair, Adam Banks definitely brought that up in his chair's address and made people really uncomfortable with saying that, but it's true. You know, it's true. Beyond special editions that, you know, or special issues that are too sparsely separated, I think it's, yeah, representation there that then influences the reviewers to accept work. The other thing, though, is that when the work is there, it is accepted. I noticed that, and I don't have any answers for this, this is more just, you know, an observation, is that our work seems to be slotted at the same times. So if, you know, people are interested in the work that is concerned with Latino issues, they have to choose and pick between two panels that are then competing. And this is even in so much as some of the work that two of our members, Stephen and Sarah Alvarez, they're a married couple, their panels are almost consistently put in the same time slot. I mean, like, this is like people who are related, right? Who have to choose and pick which ones to go to, and they can't even go to each other. So that's been unfortunate. And I know that Joyce Carter, in her chair's address this past season in Houston, mentioned, you know, like, oh, you know, if you can think of an app, you know, I want to hear about it because we can come up with these things that are, you know, like all this technical language that I don't really know. But I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if there was, you know, some sort of matrix or technology through an app that could, you know, space these panels out in a way that is more conscious of the fact that there are few of us and we should not be put in the same time slots. I mean, there has to be some sort of mathematical way to do this. It can't be impossible. And we have, you know, a chair calling for this kind of thing. And so let's call back to her and say, hey, so what can we do about this? You know, is there some sort of, you know, app-related technology that can help with this issue that's constant? I've been hearing about it since my first year in C's and up to this year. This is not something that has improved. So yeah, those two are some of the big ones.
Did you notice that in Houston this last year?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it wasn't specific to Latino issues, but it was a little bit more cross-caucus. But my panel in particular on whiteness, there were two panels on whiteness in the whole conference, at least in the title. And guess what? They were in the same time slot. So people who are interested in whiteness studies had to choose. Yeah, it's a pretty consistent thing, the trend.
Let's see. How helpful has the C's and NCTE or colleagues in the Latino caucus been in your publishing?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of mentoring has there been or not been?
Yeah. The first home for my publishing was College English, and it was through, speaking of special issues, the special issue in College English that Damian Baca and Victor Villanueva edited on Latino issues in English. So helpful, definitely. And I think because Victor became interested in my work early on, he has really taken it upon himself to mentor me through a lot of the publications. I rarely send something out without passing it by him first now at this point. My second major publication was through NCTE as a press with Rashawn Young. It was Code Meshing as World English, our edited collection, and an NCTE book. And I think what I liked most about publishing with NCTE, a book in this case, is that I got to know the process early on. I was still a graduate student when I did this project with Rashawn. And he, as a mentor, part of the Black Caucus, had, at that moment, was just kind of like, you want to do this? I said yes, not really knowing what I was getting myself into. And he said, all right, let's do it. And literally at that, I think it was Louisville, had me approach Kurt Austin of NCTE and propose the book to him and just see what happened. And the rest is history. We have a book. So I got to know, I got to know the stages of being, you know, a co-editor of a edition, and learned that with NCTE as a press. So helpful, definitely, and the mentorship has been helpful through, you know, someone who's associated with Black Caucus, of course, Victor and Latino Caucus, and it was important, it was imperative, because I wasn't getting that kind of mentorship necessarily from my faculty at Arizona. So to have people from these other caucuses that I would not have met if I hadn't been involved in C's, yeah, you know, like that was something that made my career what it is at this point, for sure.
Very pivotal.
Yeah, huge.
So that means that's what we need to do for the new people coming through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there have been different conversations and efforts toward trying to strengthen the mentorship role. I mean, there's been a thread in the most recent listserv conversations about what our mentorship should look like, especially because we've grown so much. And some of it has just been organic, you know, people getting to know each other who get along well, and that's fine. But something more structured could definitely be needed at this point because of the numbers, sheer numbers, and people who aren't necessarily going to just, you know, pick up someone, put them under their wing, or someone who's going to be, you know, precocious and say, hey, you know, teach me. We probably need something more like that. And especially when it comes to publishing, because the other side of the journals and the presses being more inclusive of our work is that our work needs to be proposed, right? You know, and so walking through and teaching our members what those steps are, the navigation strategies to put a proposal together, to get the work out there in good shape, you know, because that's the other side of the mentorship. Jaime Mejia has been instrumental to those of us he mentors in making sure it's in tip-top shape. And, you know, he'll tell us the truth about our work, and sometimes it hurts, but it's important. It's an important type of mentorship, because he's the one that's going to tell us the things that some, you know, really sometimes ignorant or arrogant reviewers will tell us from journals. So it's better to come from him first, right, to get, yeah, you know, those things in order and then send it out. So to have something structured like that in place would be great, you know.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to participate.
Yeah, it's a tremendous help.
Yeah.
What roles have you undertaken within SEAS or NCTE, and what kind of benefits have you witnessed from such experiences?
So this is kind of related to one of the other questions, which is, you know, like, who have I connected with or interacted with from the other caucuses? And I've mentioned Adam Banks a few times, mostly because he's one of my mentors. And I think through having his mentorship, my name has kind of become part of the names that he was passing on to those when he was in a leadership, a chair position within SEAS. And there's a few of us that he mentors, like a little cohort of people that are in a writing group. I think getting the recognition of somebody who is going to pass your name along is where it starts, really. So the networking, that's tantamount. And because then you participate in something, your name's out there, you're on a committee. In my case, it's been a few different committees, like deciding the best dissertation. I'm blanking on that. Is that the Braddock? I don't have the list in front of me of the committees, but the other one was the best article, best SEAS article, right? And so, like, those kind of things that aren't elected positions, they're kind of place positions, but then you start working with people who you may not have interacted with yet. And they get to know your name, and then they put your name forward. And so my name's been put forward for now elected positions like nominating committee, and now I'm on the ballot for executive committee, which is great. What's not great is that I'm in competition with another Latino, a good friend of mine, Cruz Medina. And the way nominating committee people put it to us is that if we weren't in direct competition, then there were better chances that we would just end up not elected at all, no Latinos, versus, you know, competing with, I guess, somebody else. So that's something that I think, you know, is icky and needs to be fixed. But again, I don't have an answer for NCs at the moment. But so elected stuff, but then also just, again, by word of mouth, I guess, my name got out that I like mentoring. I'm interested in, you know, helping newcomers. So now I'm part of the newcomers welcoming committee. And that's a new position that is now a 3-year commitment that I'm involved in NCs. So it's who you know, right? That's what it boils down to, is that people like Adam, and I'm sure others who I don't know the names of, became aware of me through, you know, me participating in other things, and then passed my name along.
That's wonderful. That's great. What is a story you would like to tell about the caucus, and how would you like others to remember the caucus?
Yeah. I mean, I think it dials back to what I started with, which is that aspect of being given the abrazo, maybe I should say, that you need when you're new and you don't know anybody, you don't know if it's even a field or a fit for you, and you might even be getting the message from your home organization, which I was at the time, my home program, that you don't fit, you're not someone that belongs. And so to get to a conference and to see people who, some of them look like you, some of them don't, right? It's you get to expand your concept of Latinidad, which is great, and learn about, you know, the different directions people are coming from, whether it's culturally or heritage or just in terms of the work they do. and feeling like there's a place for you, especially in this huge conference, both MCTs, and that you can always kind of come back to this home. You know that there's are going to be people there that are supportive, will look out for you, and especially now that social media is an aspect that you can keep in touch with them throughout the whole year, and let them know what you're up to, and people can keep tabs on you, you know, like, which I've started to do, you know, check in on people and be like, hey, how are you doing? And did you get a job this year? Because if you didn't, I heard about this one. And, you know, like sending those sorts of messages, keeping track of each other. So, yeah, that's the story to me about the caucus, is that there's a place, there's a home for people who feel displacement in so many aspects of the career, this crazy country. And there's a place for us and our work and people interested in our work, because that's the other thing about the caucus, is that we've never been exclusive to people who just identify as Latino, or inclusive of people who are doing work that benefits our youth and our students and us as professionals. So if there are people whose heart and work are there, I've never seen people turned away from becoming part of who we are just because they're not the right heritage or ethnic makeup.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Was there a question I didn't ask and that I should have? And if so, what question should I have asked?
No, I can't think of anything. It's a pretty good list. Yeah.
Any parting words that you'd like to communicate?
Just that I'm looking forward to seeing the growth continue and mentorship get established in maybe a more structured way. I think the conversation that's being had about that is great. I'm on board. I'm all in to do whatever our leadership determines is the right direction to go with that. And again, in these crazy political times, it does make me hopeful that there are, especially the younger people joining, that they exist and they have a space to be that is growing, I think, in strength, not just numbers, but in strength in terms of the organization every year.
That's wonderful. Well, Asia, I want to thank you, but I also want to call your attention that this is a multimodal project that we're working on with Romeo Garcia and Iris Ruiz, and we hope to have it up and running and complete sometime in September, October, so right in there. And so we'll be publishing many of the interviews that we're doing with different people like yourself and others that have been instrumental since the beginning in the 1970s, starting the Chicano teachers. So we want to have a chronology of the history of the Latino caucus, the Chicano teachers, in NCTE and NC. So I really want to thank you for contributing to the work.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the time to do the work too.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, bye-bye.